think it's just something different. I mean, there's a lot of truckers around, but they're mostly doing.
Lisa Kelly was not someone born into fame, glamour, or even an easy life. She was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1980, but at the age of 6, her family moved to Sterling, Alaska, where her life took on a new rhythm, one filled with wide open spaces, long winters, and hard physical work. Growing up on a farm, Lisa was surrounded by animals, chores, and a lifestyle that made her tough. She described herself as a tomboy early on, and it's easy to see why. She loved the dirt, the machines, the sense of freedom. And more than anything, she loved the thrill of speed. As a child and teen, Lisa threw herself into motocross, the high-speed sport of motorcycle racing on dirt tracks. She didn't just ride for fun. She competed and won. Her need for adventure didn't stop there. She learned horseback riding, tried skydiving, and even hang gliding. Everything about Lisa pointed to someone who didn't like to sit still. She chased movement, freedom, and adrenaline. And deep down, she knew she was meant for something different. Even though Lisa tried the traditional path for a while, going to college at Cornerstone University in Michigan, she quickly realized it wasn't for her. After just one semester, she dropped out and returned to Alaska. There, she floated between different jobs working at gas stations, delivering pizzas and doing anything that paid the bills. But none of those jobs lit her up inside. She missed the adrenaline. She missed the thrill. Then one day, she made a decision that would change everything. She went to trucking school and earned her commercial driver's license. At first, she drove school buses, an unusual start for someone. Would soon become one of the most recognized truck drivers in television history. But it was enough to get her foot in the door. That first step led her to Carly Transportation, a company that hauled massive loads across Alaska's dangerous roads. Lisa finally felt like she was doing what she was meant to do. In 2009, Lisa's life changed forever. That was the year she joined the cast of Ice Road Truckers, a reality TV show on the History Channel that followed truckers driving huge loads across frozen roads in Alaska and northern Canada. Lisa wasn't just another driver. She was the only woman among a group of experienced, often skeptical men, and she was young. Most people didn't think she'd last long on the ice roads, where danger was around every corner. Drivers had to cross frozen lakes, drive over cliffs, and deal with storms, breakdowns, and bitter cold, often without help nearby. One mistake could mean serious injury or death. But Lisa wasn't afraid. She drove a 100-foot-long rig, carrying oversized loads across the Dalton Highway, one of the most dangerous roads in the world, like it was nothing. And audiences loved her. They saw someone real, tough, determined, and humble. She wasn't trying to be better than the men. She just wanted to do her job and do it well. That attitude won her millions of fans. She became a fan favorite, and her episodes broke viewership records. Lisa Kelly wasn't just surviving the ice. She was thriving. Despite her success, not everyone supported her. Many in the trucking world, and even some of her fellow cast members, viewed her as a novelty, or eye candy someone cast to attract viewers, not because she had real skill. Producers reportedly told her as much, but Lisa didn't let that stop her. She worked twice as hard to prove herself. She tackled longer routes, heavier loads, and more dangerous paths. By the end of her first season, no one could question her skill. She had earned the respect of her fans and her fellow drivers. She became a role model, especially for women in industries dominated by men. She didn't just inspire people. She gave them permission to believe that they could do hard things too. Over time, Lisa appeared in multiple seasons of Ice Road Truckers, including the show's spin-off Deadliest Roads, which sent her to dangerous mountain paths in the Himalayas in South America. Her reputation only grew stronger, and for a while, it looked like nothing could stop her. As Lisa Kelly's fame grew, so did the pressures of living in the public eye. At first, it was thrilling. Being on a hit show, receiving fan mail, giving interviews, it felt like her hard work was finally being recognized. But behind the camera, life was getting more complicated. The same qualities that made Lisa relatable and loved by viewers also made her vulnerable to criticism. Some people on the internet began to attack her, not for her skills or mistakes, but for her looks, her gender, and even her personality. She was called names, labeled a dumb blonde, and accused of being on the show just for ratings. Lisa admitted in interviews that these comments hurt more than she wanted to admit. She said people don't realize you're a person, not just a character on TV. Even when she was alone in her truck, far from cameras and noise, those negative voices stayed with her. The pressure wasn't just from the outside world. Working on ice road truckers was physically and emotionally draining. The filming schedules were intense. The producers needed drama, story arcs, and thrilling moments. Sometimes, Lisa said, they would ask her to do dangerous things just to make the show more exciting, like driving on thin ice or setting up near falls that could have easily turned into real accidents. She didn't like faking danger. Her job was already risky enough without adding more for the sake of ratings. But being on a reality show meant playing a certain role, and Lisa found it hard to separate her real self from her TV character. Cameras were always on. There was little privacy. And the more she pushed herself to meet everyone's expectations, the more tired she became. In interviews, she began to speak more openly about the loneliness of life on the road. Driving across the ice for hours, sometimes days at a time, could be peaceful, but it could also feel like isolation. Podcasts and audiobooks helped, but they couldn't replace real connection, real support. Even off the ice, life was becoming harder. Lisa had always valued her independence. She wasn't flashy or overly public. She preferred living a quiet life with her husband, Travis, a fellow thrill seeker and dirt biker. But as her fame grew, her privacy shrank. She couldn't go anywhere. Without being recognized, she couldn't even grieve in peace. In 2016, Lisa suffered a heartbreaking loss when her longtime friend and Ice Road Truckers co-star Daryl Ward died in a tragic plane crash. The two had shared not just screen time, but also a deep friendship and professional bond. Daryl was someone Lisa trusted, someone who understood the risks, the pressure, and the lifestyle. Losing him wasn't just sad, it felt like losing a piece of her career. After his death, Lisa withdrew more and more from public life. Her appearances on the show became less frequent. Rumors began to spread that she had been fired, or that she was having issues with the producers. But Lisa later clarified that it wasn't about drama or conflict. She was simply exhausted by season 6. Lisa had stepped away from Ice Road Truckers. The schedule had become too much. Between filming the original series and the spin-off Deadliest Roads, she barely had time to rest, let alone recover emotionally. In Deadliest Roads, Lisa had proven her skill by driving on some of the most dangerous roads in the world. From the narrow cliffs of the Himalayas to the deadly mountain passes in the Andes. But it took a toll. These weren't just filming trips, they were physically brutal and mentally draining. Lisa dealt with mechanical failures, language barriers, dangerous road conditions, and crushing fatigue. And when the camera stopped rolling, there was no break. She had to get right back to work in Alaska. All of it began to pile up. Lisa admitted in one interview that there were times she couldn't breathe, not just from stress, but from the constant feeling of being watched, judged, and pushed to perform. She had gone from chasing her passion to trying to survive her success. Her departure left fans with mixed emotions. Some were angry, thinking she had quit. Others understood that she needed a break. Lisa never gave a dramatic farewell. There was no headline-making announcement or TV special. She simply started appearing less and less, until one day, she was just gone. Her absence was deeply felt, not just by viewers, but by women who had looked up to her as a role model. Lisa had carried the weight of representation, being one of the only female faces in a world full of men. She hadn't asked for that role, but she took it seriously. She didn't want to be the only one. She wanted to open the door for others. But over time, even that responsibility began to feel like too much. Lisa once said, "I'm not trying to be better than the boys. I just want to do my job." But the world had placed more on her shoulders than she ever expected. After Lisa's exit from Ice Road Truckers, many fans continued to follow her journey off-screen. Some hoped she would return to the show. Others wondered what her life was like now that the cameras were off. In truth, Lisa took her time to heal, reflect, and return to a more private life. She never fully left trucking. She still drives, still hauls loads, and still spends time on the road. But she's doing it on her own terms, without the pressure of a production crew, without the expectation to entertain. It's just Lisa, the road, and the hum of the engine. In rare interviews and social media posts, she shared glimpses of her life. She spoke about how much she missed the simpler days, not the danger or the fame, but the feeling of freedom that first drew her to trucking. Lisa found peace in small moments, driving through quiet stretches of Alaska, listening to music, or spending time with her animals and husband. She didn't need millions of fans or flashy moments. She needed space to breathe. The loss of Daryl Ward never left her. Lisa had always been close to a small circle of friends and family. Well, Daryl was more than a coworker. He was like a brother. His sudden death in 2016 shook the entire Ice Road Truckers community. But for Lisa, it felt personal. She had shared many hours on the road with him, trusted him, and laughed with him during the toughest trips. His absence left a quiet void. Lisa later said that his passing made her realize how fragile life is. It reminded her that fame and success mean nothing if you're not happy or healthy. She didn't want to keep pushing herself to the point of burnout. She didn't want to keep driving just because others expected her to. Instead, she chose to slow down and live for herself. And in doing so, she began to rediscover the joy of driving again. Lisa also started speaking more honestly about the challenges women face in the trucking industry. She pointed out that even though she had become a role model, not much had changed. Behind the scenes, women were still underrepresented, underpaid, and often disrespected in the field. Lisa called for more support, more encouragement, and more opportunities for women truckers. She didn't want to be the only one anymore. She wanted the industry to evolve. She also opened up about mental health, sharing how the pressure of TV, isolation, and online hate affected her deeply. Her honesty inspired others to speak out too. She became a voice for those who often feel unseen, not just women in trucking, but anyone who struggles in silence. Today, Lisa Kelly may not be in the spotlight the way she once was, but her legacy lives on. She proved that strength isn't always about being loud or fearless. Sometimes it's about showing up, staying true to yourself, and walking away when you need to. Her journey filled with risk, resilience, heartbreak, and healing touched millions. She didn't just drive trucks, she broke barriers, faced storms both on the road and within herself, and she did it all with grace. Lisa once said that trucking felt like family. Even though the road could be cold and lonely, it also made her feel alive. And even now, as she lives a quieter life, the echoes of her journey continue to inspire. Lisa Kelly's story is more than just one of fame or tragedy. It's a story of a woman who faced the ice and melted hearts. Lisa Kelly wasn't just a driver on Ice Road Truckers. She became a symbol of strength, courage, and determination in one of the world's most dangerous jobs. From the moment she appeared on the show, people were amazed by her confidence, her skill behind the wheel, and her ability to compete in a male-dominated industry. She was known for driving large rigs across frozen roads in extreme weather, where one wrong move could mean disaster. But behind the wheel and behind the cameras, there was another story, a quiet, painful story that very few people knew. Lisa wasn't just fighting snowstorms and icy turns. She was battling pressure, anxiety, grief, and loneliness. Her life, off camera, was much harder than anyone realized. Lisa started out with a dream to prove herself in the world of trucking. She loved the freedom of the road, the challenge of each trip, and the beauty of the Alaskan wilderness. But when she joined Ice Road Truckers, her world changed overnight. She became a TV star, followed by cameras, fans, and expectations. People looked up to her, admired her strength, and called her an inspiration. At first, Lisa appreciated the attention, but over time, it began to wear her down. Being on TV meant always performing, always smiling, and never showing weakness. Even when she was tired, sad, or scared, she had to keep going. It became exhausting. She once said that people asked her why she wasn't smiling all the time. And she replied honestly, because the road is trying to kill me. One of the most heartbreaking parts of Lisa's story was the personal loss she experienced during the show's run. She had co-founded a small trucking venture with someone very close to her. They had spent countless hours on the road together, working hard and building a business. But tragedy struck when that person passed away. The grief was overwhelming. Lisa didn't want the cameras around. She needed time to process what had happened. She stepped away from filming, choosing privacy over publicity. For a long time, fans wondered why she was missing from the show. But behind the scenes, she was simply trying to heal. Her silence during that time spoke louder than any words. She wasn't just taking a break. She was struggling to hold herself together, even after she returned to the show. Things weren't the same. Lisa tried to act normal, to be the strong, fearless woman people remembered. But deep down, she was hurting. The weight of her loss stayed with her, and it affected her mental health. She began to have panic attacks, trouble breathing, and moments of intense fear. Driving those icy roads became harder than ever, not just because of the danger, but because of the stress building inside her. The show never really focused on her struggles. On camera, she was still tough Lisa, but in private, she was falling apart. And the worst part was, she didn't feel like she could talk about it. As a woman in trucking, she felt pressure to always be strong, to never show emotion, and to always prove herself. That pressure became too much. Lisa once described how being on reality TV made her feel like a cartoon version of herself. She said that the show turned her into a two-dimensional character, someone the audience could cheer for, but not someone they truly understood. In interviews, she shared how lonely it felt when the camera stopped rolling. During filming, she was always surrounded by people, producers, and crew. But when filming ended, everyone left, and she was alone again. It created a strange emptiness. She had fame, but not peace. She had fans, but not freedom. And slowly, she began to ask herself, is all this really worth it? One of Lisa's biggest challenges was dealing with how people treated her online. Being one of the few women on the show made her a target for unfair criticism. Internet trolls mocked her appearance, doubted her skills, and spread hate. Even though she had proven herself time and again on the road, some people still tried to tear her down. This kind of bullying made her feel insecure, even ashamed. She admitted that some comments made her question her worth. And while fans saw her as brave and bold, she was quietly suffering. The producers of the show didn't seem to care. As long as she brought in viewers, they kept pushing her to appear. She felt like they only saw her as eye candy, not as a real person with real feelings. Through all this, Lisa found comfort in her home life. She was married to Travis Kelly, a motorcycle mechanic from Alaska, who stood by her through every storm. They lived on a modest property in Wasilla, Alaska, where they took care of horses and rescue animals. Her animals brought her peace in a way that nothing else could. She had miniature horses named Rocky and Tansy, and she often said that being with them helped her relax and feel normal again. At home, she wasn't a TV star. She was just Lisa, a woman who loved animals, nature, and quiet moments. She protected her private life fiercely, keeping it separate from the spotlight. For her home was a safe space, a place where she didn't have to perform or pretend. When Ice Road Truckers ended in 2017, Lisa thought things would get better. She hoped that without the cameras, she could finally breathe. But instead of peace, she found more uncertainty. The show had given her a sense of purpose and routine. Now, that was gone. She tried going back to regular trucking work, but it didn't feel the same. The jobs were less exciting. The roads were less meaningful. She felt disconnected. Her fame had opened doors, but it had also taken something from her. She had given everything to her career, her energy, her identity, her health, and now she felt lost. Lisa tried to stay involved in the trucking world in other ways. She hosted Chevron's Destination Further series, where she shared her experiences and talked about life on the road. She also appeared at fan expos and trucking conventions in places like England, Scotland, and Ireland. Fans lined up for hours just to meet her, shake her hand, and thank her for inspiring them. Many told her that she had changed their lives, that seeing a woman like her succeed gave them hope. Lisa was always grateful for the love and support, but inside, she still felt unsure. Was she living for herself, or for the image others had built of her? As time went on, Lisa focused more on her ranch and rescue work. She and Travis began caring for more horses and other animals. She found comfort in that quiet life, away from TV and the stress it brought. She began hosting clinics, sharing her love for horses with others. She also started attending women's trucking events, not as a celebrity, but as someone who truly wanted to help others succeed. She talked openly about the lack of support for women in the trucking industry, how hard it was to be taken seriously, and how the system needed to change. Lisa became a voice for women who felt invisible, reminding them that strength doesn't always look like a roaring engine. Sometimes it looks like survival. Lisa's departure from the public eye left fans with many questions. Some wondered if she had health problems. Others thought she had been pushed out by producers. Still others believed she had simply burned out. The truth is, Lisa chose herself. She chose peace over fame. She chose healing over attention. Knew that staying in the spotlight would continue to chip away at her. And so, without warning, she faded from the screen. She didn't make a big announcement. She didn't say goodbye. She just quietly walked away. Her absence created a huge hole in the Ice Road Truckers fan base. Online forums were filled with threads asking, "Where is Lisa Kelly?" Some people missed seeing her drive across icy roads. Others missed her strength and humor. But for Lisa, the silence was healing. She spent her days caring for animals, riding horses, and enjoying the sort of Alaskan wilderness. She found happiness in the simple things: a sunny day, a quiet trail, a warm barn. Fame had taken so much from her, but she had finally taken something back: her life. Even though she wasn't on TV anymore, Lisa's impact didn't disappear. Her story became a case study in mental health, resilience, and the hidden costs of fame. Trucking organizations started using her journey to talk about burnout, loneliness, and emotional pressure in the industry. More attention was given to the mental health of truckers, especially women. Her example showed that even the strongest drivers could struggle, and that it was okay to step away when things got too hard. Lisa may not have wanted to be a symbol, but her actions gave others permission to take care of themselves. Lisa's strength wasn't just in her driving skills. It was in her honesty, her vulnerability, and her courage to walk away from something that no longer served her. She didn't try to be perfect. She didn't fake happiness. She faced her pain head-on and made hard choices. That's what made her truly inspiring. She once joked in an interview, "I'm not trying to impress anybody anymore." But behind that joke was a deep truth. After years of fighting for respect, she realized she didn't need anyone's approval. She only needed peace. By the time Ice Road Truckers signed off, Lisa Kelly had become more than a reality TV star. She had become a legend. Her presence on the show had opened the door for more women to enter the trucking world and believe they belonged there. She had driven across dangerous terrain, battled extreme weather, and stood her ground in a male-dominated profession. But her true legacy wasn't just in how well she drove. It was in how she lived. She faced losses, pressures, and the overwhelming weight of public expectations. And still, she remained kind, humble, and true to herself. When she stepped away from fame, it wasn't a retreat, it was an act of bravery. After leaving television, Lisa focused more on her passion for horses and animal welfare. She and Travis expanded their rescue efforts, taking in animals who had nowhere else to go. They created a quiet sanctuary in Wasilla, Alaska, where animals were safe and people could heal. Lisa hosted small events, joined local clinics, and connected with people not as a celebrity, but as someone who had been through a lot and wanted to make a difference. She found joy in teaching others, sharing her love for horses, and being surrounded by peace and nature. Her fans continued to follow her online, even though she rarely posted. When she did, it was often photos of her animals or short glimpses into her new life. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. The more time passed, the clearer it became that Lisa's silence wasn't a loss. It was a message. In a world where people constantly chase fame, Lisa showed what it means to choose yourself. Her quiet departure spoke volumes. It said that mental health matters, that fame isn't always fulfilling, that sometimes walking away is the strongest thing a person can do. Her story started with freezing roads and roaring engines, but it ended in soft snow, quiet barns, and the gentle whinny of horses. And for her fans, that ending was more powerful than any final episode since her retirement. Lisa has become an unintentional symbol in the world of mental health and female empowerment. Conferences and support groups in the trucking industry now use her story to talk about burnout, pressure, and the need for better support systems. New drivers entering the field often mention Lisa as their biggest inspiration. She didn't just break barriers, she broke silence. She reminded everyone that even the toughest people have limits, and that it's okay to stop and rest. Journey helped start conversations that had long been ignored in the trucking world. Conversations about exhaustion, isolation, and emotional safety. But not everyone understood her choice to disappear. Some people felt confused or even disappointed. They wanted more episodes, more appearances, more interviews. They wanted Lisa to keep being the hero they had come to admire. God. Always roar. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they leave quietly, without saying goodbye, because that's what they need to do. Lisa gave the world everything she had. She drove across ice roads, faced the cold, and smiled through pain. When she had nothing left to give, she chose to step away, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. She knew that her worth wasn't tied to a TV screen. In one emotional moment shared during a small podcast, Lisa said something that stuck with many fans: "You don't beat the ice. You learn to live with it." That line became more than a metaphor. It became her truth. Life had thrown challenges at her, tested her strength, and forced her to grow. And she survived not by fighting the storm, but by learning how to move through it with grace. Her entire journey, from fearless driver to quiet caretaker, was a lesson in endurance, a lesson in choosing peace over pressure, silence over applause, self-care over sacrifice. Today, even though Lisa rarely appears in public, her presence is still felt. Fans continue to leave comments online, thanking her for what she gave, wishing her peace, and sharing how she changed their lives. Some say they got into trucking because of her. Others say they learned how to stand up for themselves because of her strength. A few say her story saved their life during dark times. Lisa may no longer be behind the wheel of a big rig, but she's still leading the way, just in a quieter, more meaningful direction. So what do we really lose when someone like Lisa Kelly steps out of the spotlight? Maybe we lose a familiar face on our screens. Maybe we miss the sound of her engine, the sight of her truck crossing frozen lakes, or her calm voice over the CB radio. But what we gain is even more powerful. Gain perspective. We gain a deeper understanding of what strength really looks like. We remember that it's okay to rest, that we don't always have to be strong for others, that sometimes being strong means letting go. Lisa Kelly didn't give us a dramatic farewell. She didn't make a speech or ask for applause. She simply faded from view, like headlights disappearing into the dusk. But in doing so, she left behind a legacy of strength, resilience, and quiet rebellion. She reminded us that real heroes don't always live on TV. Sometimes they live in barns, ride horses, and take care of rescue animals. Now, sometimes they choose healing over hustle. And sometimes they teach us the most powerful lessons by walking. Away as fans, we may never see Lisa Kelly return to reality television. We may never get the full story of why she left or what she's doing now, but we don't need to. She gave us enough. She inspired millions, broke barriers, and showed the world that women belong anywhere they choose to be, even on the ice, roads. And more importantly, she showed that when the road gets too hard, it's okay to stop driving. It's okay to choose a different path. Lisa's story isn't just about what she did on the road. It's about what she taught us off the road, about strength, vulnerability, and the importance of listening to your inner voice. She may have disappeared from the cameras, but not from our hearts. Her legacy lives on in every woman who dares to be bold, in every person who chooses peace, and in every voice that whispers instead of shouts. And so, as the engines grow quiet and the ice roads fade behind her, Lisa Kelly remains one of the most unforgettable figures in reality television. She showed us that, even on the toughest roads, you can find a way to survive. You don't have to roar to be strong. Sometimes the softest voice leaves the deepest mark. Lisa Kelly's journey wasn't just a career. It was a quiet rebellion, a powerful stand, and a lasting legacy carved in ice.